want to watch.
How's it going, guys? Welcome to Fatberg yet again. Today we have another video that has been on the docket for a little while now. Something that I've been interested in and learned some new things about as I was reading into it. Well, we're gonna be taking a trip back into the early 2000s here today. Close to, well, 9/11. It's hard to explain to people how, afraid everyone was during that time. And there was another event, so to speak, that happened right next to 9/11 that scared the fuck out of everybody. Like, even as a kid, I remember hearing about this shit and being afraid as though I would be be targeted. It's the same thing with 9/11. There were people out in no-name towns in the Midwest thinking that their Walmart was gonna get fucking hit by a plane or something. We weren't targets. And me as a child certainly wasn't a target of anthrax. So today we're going to be talking about anthrax and the 2001 anthrax attacks. Anthrax is an infection caused by the bacteria Bacillus
Bacillus anthracis.
Bacillus anthracis, I believe is how it's pronounced. The infection can occur through many forms of contact, but skin contact and inhalation are the most common, at least in, weaponized cases. Symptoms can set in as early as 24 hours after infection or as late as a month or so. Cutaneous or skin infection symptoms present as blisters with swelling in the surrounding area that eventually turn into black ulcers that, despite their appearance, are painless. Anthrax is rarely fatal if treated, but without treatment, the prognosis does become much worse. Skin infections only have a 20% fatality rate. Lung infections, however, are much more dangerous. Beginning with flu-like symptoms, it can quickly become fatal without treatment. Prior to 2001, the fatality rate was 90% for lung infections. Recent advancements have dropped that rate to around 40% or so, as long as immediate treatment is administered. Now, even with the advancements in treatment, the infection is still unpleasant, so to speak, and the iconic blistering is something from fucking nightmares. I'll post what I can of an anthrax infection. Now, with all that said, outbreaks are rare. However, anthrax has been weaponized. And in 2001, while the US was still recovering from the September 11th terror attacks, it would face yet another attack. A series of letters contaminated with the bacteria were sent out to the media and government officials. The attacks would continue from September into October of that year, with 5 people being killed and another 17 receiving infections. This happened in about 2 waves. The first victim, Robert Stevens of The Sun, died on October 5th after entering a hospital complaining of vomiting and shortness of breath. The letters in the second wave, targeting US senators and some other public figures, contained a more refined and potent version of the weaponized bacteria, but were intercepted before reaching most of their targets. Now, the letters did contain a note, so to speak. The first wave said this: 9/11/2001, this is next, take penicillin now, death to America, death to Israel, Allah is great. I'm just reading the letter, by the way. I might need to censor that. I'll try and upload it without censoring that. Again, that's just what the fucking letter says. If I have to censor it, I'll put writing so you guys can see, but I don't think YouTube will like this. Now, the second set contained a similar set of notes. You cannot stop us. We have this anthrax. You die now. Are you afraid? death to America, death to Israel, Allah is great. Now, and here's where it gets weird, and I didn't know this myself, but it was never actually confirmed who did this. For the longest time, I straight up thought that this was from, like, the Taliban, or not the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, one of those guys. I thought this was an actual terror attack, but it wasn't. There was 2 prime suspects, but strangely or scarily enough, it was never confirmed who sent the letters. There were many theories, even like of CIA involvement, but the most likely is a man named Bruce Edward Ivins. Ivins was a microbiologist and biodefense researcher for the Army. Following the attack, Ivins acted strangely and seemed to be in a sort of mental health crisis of sorts. It took many years, but the FBI finally interrogated Ivins and found many inconsistencies with his alibi. Furthermore, the strain of anthrax used in the attack was traced back to the research facility he worked at, which is pretty fucking damning, I would say. The investigation would never completely be resolved, as Ivins committed in 2008, and in 2010, the investigation would fully close, with him remaining the prime suspect. In some circles, this is controversial, though. And again, the Wikipedia page on this guy is dense. It's a very complicated case. I try to condense everything down into like bite-sized materials. If I wanted to, this could be like a 2-hour-long video. It's a long fucking story. And again, it so many twists and turns in it that I didn't know were there. I, for the longest time, thought that this was a terrorist attack. It wasn't. It was one crazy guy or another pissed about something and decided to anthrax people. It's visually very frightening. Again, if treated right away, it's not that deadly of a thing, but you know, with the World Trade Centers coming down, and then we have this fucking just horrific bacterial infection coming from a weaponized bacteria. 2 very haunting images right next to each other in what I would still call like baby America. You know, we're kind of now like adult America. We're not doing great as adults, but we're a little bit more open to the idea that everything's fucked. Back then, it was different. These things stack, you know, like it was just bullshit after bullshit after bullshit, just whiplash. And again, showing the images here, you could imagine like how people would take that after seeing, you know, it felt like America was truly under attack. This wasn't one of those things, but it felt like it. But this was just, you know, another fucking crazy guy who had access to things that he shouldn't. As with most attacks and things that, you know, happen, let's not get political. It's an election season.